Good evening, Professor Leary. Zofia Grigorevska, November 2nd, 2019. Week first discussion. For this week, the discussion, we have to analyze The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon and Decolonizing Methodologies. Good evening, Professor Leary. Zofia Grzegorzewska, November 2nd, 2019. Week first discussion. For this week discussion, we have to analyze The Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon and Decolonizing Methodologies by Linda Towey Smith. Both pieces are very interesting. I've found really interesting The Wretched of the Earth piece on violence and how colonized people are ready to fight those who oppress them, those who colonize them. And they turn into violence, the ugly violence that they wish upon their oppressors. Everything that's worst, everything that's oppressors did to them, they want revenge. They want revenge, they want bloody revenge. Well, colonists, oppressors, came not asking if they can use the land. They came and they took it. They didn't ask if they can cultivate the land. They didn't ask if they can build on it. They didn't ask if they can bring their own ideas, their own methods, their own philosophies. They just brought it, not asking the natives if they have their permission. And that's what is the biggest problem with the Western society, I think, is that they just don't ask. They came, they didn't ask, I'm sorry. They came, they took it, and believing that they're making the best use of it. As I have to remind that, of course, the biggest colonization started with Christopher Columbus discovers, he thought, right, he discovered new ways to India, but later on we find out that Amerigo Vespucci have proved that Christopher Columbus did found new lands. So, well, we're really a Western society really did not ask if they can have permission to do anything. There were already societies here. There were tribes who had established their own agriculture. They had established their own ways of life, own religions, and own societies. And here comes the white person who is totally ruined it. The white person that brings own ideas, own ideologies, own weapons, own weapons that at the time were massive destruction weapons. Those tribes over here did not have weapons like this, and those are weapons of massive destruction. Here comes also white people with bringing all of new sicknesses, illnesses. There were really bringing whole tribes to how I can use this word, they were all wiped out by just all new sicknesses and illnesses. And not only, so I think those that were oppressed were wrong of thinking about violence. I don't think they were wrong, but as we can see, the violence brings violence, and violence brings violence on. And those oppressed stood up. They were forced to get to the levels of oppressors and think violence against their oppressors. Well, as we know, approximately the changes didn't follow quickly. There's still a lot of oppression that needs to be taken under considerations. There's still a lot of unexplained treatments between the Western civilization and those who were oppressed by Western civilizations. I just wish that I could find some maybe common ground and start thinking maybe in terms of finding try to find some I would say talk, and to find some common ground, language, to find how we can do things differently and not follow violence, which we have a lot right now. And it's hard to think that still many will lose their lives because of stereotypes. I want to say stereotypes. Well, Linda Tovey-Smith, Professor Leary, a very interesting, I think, book. She is trying to explain what happened, starting with colonizations, how white people just came. They bring their, exactly, she's saying the same thing. The white people came. So Mrs. Tovey-Smith has similar ideas to the Wretched of the Earth, where she is saying at the beginning that Western civilization just came, took it. Not even thinking of natives as people, not treating them as people. They were just things. Natives are things. Natives are just belongings. And not only natives, as we know, Western society was bringing exactly millions and millions of people that are approximately kidnapped from Africa. Those Africans didn't came here voluntarily. They're approximately kidnapped from their continent and from their mother countries and brought here by force, and brought here to the United States by force, or to the other parts of colonized world. Um, it wasn't their choice. So they were bring here forcibly, not by choice. So Lindsay, Mrs. Huey, Mrs. Tui Smith is trying to say that there is nothing sacred to Western civilization. There was nothing sacred to Western people. And I'm sorry, my screen went blank, black. But there was nothing from the beginning that presented that there is nothing that is native that can be sacred over here. And she's given a specific example here. Quote, opening the quote, a specific example of this colonization of and in the indigenous architectural space of indigenous spatial concept can be found in the story of the Matatua, a carved Maori house built in 1875 as a wedding gift from the one tribal group to another. Interesting point. The New Zealand government negotiated and gained agreement to send the Matatua to the British Empire exhibition at Sydney in 1879. The house was displayed according to the aesthetic and economic sense of the exhibition curators. Well, the house was taken apart, and pieces of it were just displayed. It seems like there's nothing really that was sacred for whites. Not only they took, they colonized, they took, they made the things their own, but also the cultural aspect of natives meant nothing. So this Matatatua house meant something for those tribes. It was wedding gift. We pay attention to our wedding gifts. We're expecting them to be, we have wedding gifts registered, and we're expecting our gifts to be awesome or something that is from the list, from our wedding gift list. This house was exactly like the one from the wedding gift list, right? It was very sacred. It's something nice and sacred, and it was given from one tribal to another, but it was taken apart by government and shown in exhibitions in parts, which at this point the house really lose its character. Interesting reading because the Mrs. Tui Smith also is saying that nothing sacred, that it was for colonizers, for those who colonize the New World, who bring their own ideas, methods, ways of building. Then Epicure, I'm sorry, yeah, the Enlightenment era happened, and the Enlightenment era just cared about the Western world. Industrialization happened, that care only about whites and Western world. But she says still that even after the Second World War, the natives and Africans, Americans were nothing, still meant nothing. Well, even thought the natives and Africans, Americans were fought in wars and fought for the United States, and they were treated like nothing. Well, I'm sorry, Professor. It's